Muy buenas tardes al pueblo de Puerto Rico que nos están viendo. Hoy hay mucho que está ocurriendo y voy a atender esas preguntas, pero en primer lugar quiero hablar sobre el esfuerzo que se ha estado haciendo hoy, producto del gran liderato y del compromiso del gobernador de Nueva York, Andrew Cuomo, que desde el principio ha dicho que sí a Puerto Rico, tanto en el esfuerzo de Irma como ahora con María. Que lo voy a cambiar a inglés para que todos los medios puedan cubrir, y entonces el gobernador hará sus expresiones, atenderá preguntas y yo después contestaré un sinnúmero de preguntas. Quiero dejarles saber que esto aquí ahora es nuestro centro operacional conjunto, trabajando con FEMA, con el gobierno federal, gobierno central y el gobierno municipal. Así que, good evening to all our fellow citizens. Today we have the privilege to have the visit of Councilman, Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, and of course the Governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo. I have to say that the Governor has been a friend to Puerto Rico from day one. Prior to any event, he has always been listening and seeing what the constituents of Puerto Rico need. As soon as Irma was a threat to Puerto Rico, he called our office and he called several of our leaders, and he just had one statement to me: what can I do to help? Immediately after Maria, we spoke, and at my petition, when I asked him for aid and for collaboration, the governor didn't hesitate. He said, we'll bring all of our resources, we'll help you rebuild, we'll help you make the best out of a tough situation that you're facing here in Puerto Rico, and we want to make sure that your people are safe. So much so is that leadership and that commitment that he came over here today to make sure that he saw the damage, make sure that he could bring some of his assets, brought some important resources that we need here in Puerto Rico, including food, water, and human resources to assess the damage in structural areas around Puerto Rico. So it is a privilege to have him over here. On behalf of the people of Puerto Rico, I want to thank Governor Cuomo for his leadership, but also for his compassion and his commitment to make sure that his fellow citizens, his fellow U.S. citizens from Puerto Rico are safe, and then they can bounce back stronger than ever. Governor, the podium is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, it's our pleasure to be here. I wish it was under different circumstances. First, to Governor Rosselló, I want to thank you very much for the time that he has taken with us. It's very impressive to hear him speak about how he's in charge of the situation and his grasp of the situation and how much he's accomplished already in responding to this emergency. We have with us, to my right, Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, who's representing the federal delegation from New York. To my left, Assemblyman Marcus Crespo, who represents the legislature in New York. We have Gil Quiñones, who is the head of our power authority, who we brought down to do an assessment of the power system and to see how we can help. My Chief of Staff, Melissa DeRosa, is with us. The Budget Director, Robert Mejica, is with us. And my special assistant and youngest daughter, Michaela, whose job it is to tell her father everything that he does wrong, and she does it very, very well, I'll have you know. The first message is on behalf of 19 million people in the state of New York. We want you to know that you have been in our thoughts and our prayers. Everyone has watched on TV what has been happening. The pain, the anguish, the anxiety, how many people have family members and because there's no power, there's no cell service, they can't find out about their family members. And it has created tremendous anxiety on the behalf of all New Yorkers. When Governor Rosselló sent a request for assistance with a list, that was unnecessary in some ways. because the New York, Puerto Rico connection is so strong. We are family, and you don't have to ask family for help. Family shows up, and we are family. We have more Puerto Ricans in our state than any place outside of Puerto Rico. So it's our pleasure to be here. We got on the first flight that we could. JetBlue has arranged the flight. 2 flights today, actually, JetBlue. And I want to thank them very much for their cooperation. We set this up on very short notice. We loaded the plane last night, and we took off this morning, and there's a second plane that is coming in. The first shipment, we brought generators, blankets, food, cots, 2 planes full of equipment and resources that can help in the short term. But we are going to be here for the long term. This is a terrible situation, that is true. I do not believe that this is a situation that is going to defeat the people of Puerto Rico. I sensed a resilience today and a strength among the Puerto Rican people in the midst of it. You could see their energy and their dedication that this was not going to beat them, they were going to beat this. And as the governor said, I think there's an opportunity here for a silver lining in to this cloud. And the silver lining is a goal of not just building back Puerto Rico, but building it back better than it ever was before. Using this as an opportunity to learn and to grow. How do we put back a better power system? How do we better locate our housing? There are going to be funds. And the Congresswoman was discussing with the governor how she can help get those funds from Washington and direct them to where they need to be. But there will be funds, and there will be a lot of construction. And I believe at the end of the day, Puerto Rico will be better for having gone through this experience. I think it'll be a stronger community, and I think actually there will be improvements in the way it is built. Anything we can do, we are going to be there. This is not the first trip. I've been here many times before, and it's not our last trip. This was more for us to get an assessment of what needs to be done. And we have a good idea now on how we can help. We'll have National Guard coming down either tomorrow or the next day. We'll have helicopters coming with them, some equipment that we identified today that we need. And it's going to be a long road, and it's going to be a hard road. But it will be a road that we will walk together. And New York will be with you every step of the way. Thank you.
Could you just briefly let Congresswoman Nidia Velázquez as well address the media?
Gracias, gobernador. No quiero tomarle tiempo porque sé que queremos seguir visitando las comunidades, pero de parte de todos los puertorriqueños en Nueva York y en los Estados Unidos, la diáspora puertorriqueña, nuestro corazón está con ustedes. Nosotros utilizaremos todos nuestros recursos. Entiendan ustedes nuestro poder político en Washington para poner la presión de que se le asigne a Puerto Rico los fondos necesarios. Queremos que Puerto Rico, como se dice en inglés, we need to make Puerto Rico whole again, and we will not rest until we achieve that. These are 3.5 million Americans. These are American citizens, and they deserve and we expect the respect, and we're going to fight together with the Governor Cuomo. I said it before we left this morning. This is a governor who doesn't make any distinction between American citizens in New York and American citizens here and in the Virgin Islands. For that, the Puerto Rican community will never forget that, and I know that the Puerto Rican community here in New York will never forget it. Thank you so much. And Governor, to you, I have to say that he has done an incredible job.
Thank you so much for thank you for your leadership in Washington and everything you're doing for Puerto Rico. Last, before we go to questions for the governor, I just want to state the governor was here for George as well. He has a record of coming over here. He was HUD secretary at that juncture and has always had a vision to see how we can rebuild better. So what better asset, what better advice, what better leadership could we have over here in Puerto Rico at this juncture than the guidance of the governor of New York. So I'll let then who's going to handle the questions.
Yes, good afternoon, Governor. Actually, Governor, if you could give us an update on the dam in Oaxaca.
Yes.
How many people have been evacuated? What is the immediate danger? Is anyone injured or dead? And has the dam exactly failed? Has it burst?
Yes.
What's the status?
So the information we're getting is from the National Weather Service. There is a structural damage. There's damage to structural integrity. We don't know what the detail is. We're evacuating everywhere, right? We've got all of our resources right now focused on that. As soon as we finish this conference, I'm heading over there as well, and we want to make sure that the people in Isabela, in Quebradillas, and in the region are safe. Sí, ok, en español sí. La pregunta sobre la situación en Oaxaca, y puedo hablar después que el gobernador termine un poquito más del detalle. Vamos a estar trabajando, enviando todos los recursos disponibles allá para evacuar inmediatamente. Es un fallo estructural, no sabemos el detalle, nos lo indica el National Weather Service, pero en este momento no estamos para tratar de ver qué es lo que se trata, sino de sacar a la gente lo antes posible. Yo voy a ir para allá, tan pronto termine esta conferencia de prensa, voy a ir con el equipo de FEMA que nos han estado ayudando, vamos a observar y vamos a movilizar Guardia Nacional, Policía y todos los recursos que tengamos disponibles para desalojar inmediatamente.
¿Cuánta gente se ha desalojado?
No tengo el número ahora de cuántos se han desalojado, pero tan pronto culmine la conferencia de prensa puedo preguntar al equipo para que se lo pueda.
Pero se ha comenzado a desalojar.
Sí, se ha comenzado a trabajar y vamos nuevamente, repito, todos los recursos están yendo para allá, helicópteros, Guardia Nacional, la policía, queremos desalojar, no sabemos el detalle, pero es mejor estar seguro que errar en el lado equivocado.
Vamos en orden. Do you have any questions for Governor Cuomo because he has to leave?
Okay, just
Okay. Cyber News.
Governor, do you know any other governor that called you to see if you can help also? Do you know anybody else in the States who contact you to assist us?
Not a governor who called me to assist Puerto Rico, but it is very common what they call mutual aid. When one state has a problem, we share resources back and forth. The governor of the Virgin Islands called for assistance, for example, last week. So that is relatively a common sharing called mutual aid. This is different given the nature of the relationship. This is personal. The people of my state feel very strongly on a personal level. They're heartbroken, and they want to make sure we do everything we can above and beyond.
So
CNN, you know, in order,
communication
CNN.
from other
CNN.
states to assist.
I wouldn't know what other states are doing.
CNN.
Governor Cuomo, we really appreciate the fact that you're taking matters into your own hands, and I'm sure the people of Puerto Rico are extremely grateful for the aid that you're bringing. I wanted to ask you and Congresswoman Velasquez also, you mentioned about the funds. What are you doing exactly to push Congress to bring more funds to Puerto Rico in the coming weeks and months?
Anything we can do from New York, obviously the Congresswoman is in a great position to help, but New York is a very strong congressional delegation, both on the House and the Senate side. And this is a priority for the state of New York, and it will be a priority for the New York delegation. They will be 100% supportive of Puerto Rico. It's essential not only that you get a fair share of funding, but also the funds are flexible enough to use the way Governor Rosselló wants to use them in Puerto Rico. But you will have the full support of the New York delegation. Let me ask the Congresswoman.
So we are in recess. We're going back on Monday. And we will petition the Democratic leadership that we need to have another supplemental disaster package that would include money for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And I know that the first supplemental that we passed, I believe that it was $7 billion, is not enough for Texas, Florida, Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. On top of that, I wrote a letter that is being circulated among other members in Congress, asking for the federal government to rescind the waiver requirement that the local government has to come up with 25% in some instances, and in other programs 10 or 15%. We are asking the federal government to waive that. Also, I am sending a letter asking for a waiver from the Jones Act for 1 year.
Okay, the last question for Cuomo Telenoticias. You will serve as long-term help in Puerto Rico. What kind of help would you be establishing offices here in the island, or what's the help?
We actually have an office in the island already that I created when I was governor a couple of years ago, which again is indicative of the type of relationship that we have. But we are going to be with you every step of the way. We'll help you in Washington and work with the Congresswoman to get the package passed. We'll work with you on getting the power system back up. Improvements to the power system. As the governor mentioned, I was the housing secretary of HUD. I was here many times as the HUD secretary working on housing. So how do you build back housing, and where do you build it, and how do you build it so it's more resilient for the next storm? You know, we would all like to say that this is the last time there's going to be a storm. The pattern is exactly the opposite, right? There's more and more extreme weather. They have what they call 100-year floods, that the flood is only supposed to happen once every 100 years. In my state, that happens about 5 times a year now, that is once in 100 years. So there is a definite pattern of extreme weather. Knowing that, how do you build back smarter than before? And we'll be helpful in all of those regards. Thank you.
Okay, we excuse Governor